Hello there. This is the story of the ugly duckling. Once upon a time, on a farm far away, there was a mother duck, and she was finished hatching out her eggs, and there they all were, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. First, this one began to crack and open, then this one, then this one, and then this one, and then she looked and thought, oh, hang on, all these little ducklings are coming out with their little yellow beaks and their little fluffy yellow feathers, but this big one is taking its time. And she looked and thought, oh dear. But eventually the big egg began to rattle around, and crack, 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 out came a strange looking duck. It was bigger than all the others and was dark grey and brown. And Mother Duck thought, oh dear. Oh well, she thought, time for my little children's first swimming lesson. So she led them all the way down to the bank of the river and gently pushed them in one by one, because they had to learn to swim on the surface of the water and dive in and get food, and they all had to go. The big dark grey one rolled off the bank, splashed into the river, sank straight down. She had to go and grab him and pull him up. He was all spluttering and flummoxed, and Mother Duck thought, oh dear. Anyway, after that she thought, I'd better introduce my new ducklings to all the other animals on the farm. So they went into the farmyard and they were greeted with hoots and moos and barks and snorts. It was hoo, moo, and all those sounds of the animals. Then the cockerel, the rooster, who thought he was the king of the farmyard, looked across and said, what is that thing there? And all the animals looked at the ugly duckling and burst out laughing. The ugly duckling's brothers and sisters all gathered round their mother, trying to hide, as if to say, we're not with this guy, we don't know him really. The mother duck went, oh dear. And the ugly duckling felt very stupid, very silly, and then it thought, I'm going to run away. And it ran out of the farmyard, down the lane, onto the bank of the river, jumped on the river and went round the corner on the swiftly flowing water. And eventually the river got bigger and wider, and there were lots of reeds growing on the edge. And the ugly duckling made his way in there and hid amongst the reeds and thought, oh, this is where I'm going to stay, and I feel so sad and lonely. Just then he heard bang, bang, bang. The hunters were out hunting for ducks with their guns and dogs, and suddenly a big dog's face pushed its way into the reeds and growled and snarled and opened its big mouth as if it was about to bite the duck. But then there was a voice, Rufus, Rufus, come here. Oh, the master calling his dog, and the dog ran away. Oh, thought the ugly little duckling, I thought that was it for me. Well, the little duckling stayed there for the whole summer, and every time someone saw him, be it a person or an animal or a bird, they laughed at him. They pointed their fingers or their feathers at him or their beaks, and they all thought he looked so ugly and horrible, and they hissed at him and they tried to bite his tail. It was a sad life. Then summer went into autumn, and autumn became winter, and the ice began to form on the surface of the slow moving river. And one day the ugly duckling was sat on the ice and he was trapped. He couldn't move. He was stuck, and he thought, Is this how it's going to end? Here on the frozen surface of the river? Just then, however, a farmer was walking by to feed his cows, and he saw the duck down there, frozen in the river. So being a kind sort of guy, he went and kicked the water, the ice, with his foot, crack, 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 and released the ugly duckling and picked him up and put him in his pocket, and then went home to the farm where his wife and his 2 children were there. And he took out the duckling and gave the duckling to his children. And they put the ugly duckling in a box by the fire where he dried out. And they picked him up and they stroked his dark grey and brown feathers and they gave him something to eat. And there he passed the rest of the winter with that family. However, the farmer's wife had no time for the ugly duckling. He was always getting under her feet. He was spilling the milk from the cow. He was upturning the butter she'd just churned. And one day, in a rage, she chased the duck out of the kitchen, across the fire line, down the lane, and he ran. Until she stopped running, and he found himself on the bank, on the edge of the river. And he looked around and thought, wow, what a lovely day. Indeed, it was spring, and the apple blossom was there, and there was bird song in the sky, the blue sky. He thought, oh, this is rather nice. And then he saw 3 things he'd never seen before. 3 magnificent white swans gliding down the river on the other side. And he thought, aren't they marvellous? Wow! And one of the swans turned and looked at him and said, come and join us. Come and be with us. And the ugly duckling thought, he's being funny. He's making fun of me, and he doesn't mean it. He's going to be rude in a minute. And the swan said, no, come and join us, be with us. And the ugly duckling thought, well, he does seem to be telling the truth. It sounds like a good invitation. And he went to the edge of the river and leaned over, ready to dive into the water, when suddenly, below him, he saw his own reflection. And he looked and he thought, whoa, I'm not an ugly duckling anymore. In fact, I'm a swan. Me, I'm a swan. Wow. And with that, he picked up his great big white wings and he dived onto the river and glided across and became a member of the swan family and lived many, many happy years after that. There you go. There's the story.